Hello and welcome back to the kitchen. So it's kind of like in the middle of November right now, and I really have to start thinking about getting Christmas ready. I make my own gluten-free, dairy-free plum puddings from scratch. So it is time now to get all of our dried fruits together and start soaking them in a dark alcohol of some description to plump them up and make them juicy and stuff again. And that also adds a lot of flavor to our plum pudding as well. So now this recipe that I am using is actually my great grandmother's plum pudding recipe that I altered a little bit because it wasn't gluten and dairy free. So I altered it and changed it quite a few years back when I started going gluten and dairy free, and it comes out superb every year. And if you want the recipe for this, it is actually on my website, which is lucaslifestyle.com.au, and then it's under the Christmas banner, but I will put a link in the description below for you so you can click straight on it and head to it. So in this recipe, we're going to be using a lot of dark dried fruits is what we want. The recipe does call for prunes, and when I came to get it all set up for this shoot, I realized I don't have any prunes. But that's okay. I am going to put figs in instead. So my plum pudding might not come out as dark as what it would is if I was going to use prunes, because the prunes add a darker color to your plum pudding as well. So, and I'm going to be making, so the plum pudding recipe that's up on the website makes a nice sized plum pudding for about 5 people. Now I'm going to be making a few plum puddings because we like to have one at Christmas and then maybe one at New Year. And I also have some friends that I'm going to be giving some of my plum puddings to as well. All right, so the recipe calls for sultanas, which I have. So first we're going to do some sultanas. Recipe says half a cup of sultanas. I'm going to do, I'm going to make probably about 3 plum puddings. So I'm obviously going to go a cup and a half. Now we can be a little bit, a little bit lenient on our measurements here. It's not a hard and fast rule, but just keep in mind that after this section, you've got another portion to go where you actually mix your fruit mixture with your dry ingredients and your eggs and stuff to combine it and turn it into a pudding. So you are going to have kind of rough estimates on how many times you've done it. So when I come to making the next section, I will times it by 3 so that it all works out and the proportions are good. Now it also says half a cup of currants, so I'm going to once again do a cup and a half of currants. So instead of dates this year, I'm going to go cherries. Like, mix and match, guys, mix and match. It is quite okay. So half a cup. So I'm just going to use this full packet, which is about 1.5. Oh, that's only about a cup. That'll be fine. I also put blueberries into this recipe. So about a cup of blueberries, which is that full container. And then it says chopped prunes. It says 1/4 cup, so that's half a cup. So yeah, with the figs that I've cut up, that's going to make up for the dates, which I replaced for the cherries. So I'm going to put all of these chopped figs in, and I'm actually going to add some cranberries as well. So I'm going to put a cup of cranberries in. All right, so once we've got that mixture happening with all of our fruits, just get in there and combine it all and make sure that your fig is all broken up and just get it all mixed through so that all the different fruits are all over the place. Break up any clumps. So I have to say, this is one of the easiest recipes to make a plum pudding that I have ever seen. I love the simplicity of it, because if it wasn't simple, I wouldn't be making it every year. So now that I've got all the dried fruit together, I'm going to use a rum in this one. You can use any sort of dark spirit that's got a bit of flavour to it. Like your vodkas and gins would work, but they don't have that different flavour to it, which adds to the flavour of your plum pudding. And guys, remember, even though you're putting alcohol in it now, you're cooking it for like 4-6 hours, pre-cooking and then reheating it for around about 3-4 hours on Christmas Day. So there will be no trace of alcohol left. It will just be the flavour of whatever alcohol that you put in. So now I'm just going to pour a whole heap of the alcohol over the top, and I'm going to mix that in. I'm going to cover it with some Glad wrap and put it in my fridge, and every day for 3-4 days, up to a week even, just go in and stir it, because you want the hydration happening back in the dried fruits that you've got, so it's absorbing all that nice flavour. And if it looks as if it's absorbed all of the alcohol that you've put in and it still needs to be plumped up some more, pour some more in and let it go for another day or so. So that, guys, is the first part of the plum pudding making. I'm going to come back in about 4 to 5 days, and I'm going to show you the second part of this. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the kitchen. It has been a week since I filmed the first part of getting the dried fruits ready for this plum pudding. Now let's get into it. Now this next section, you have to be a little bit organized and set up. So I'm going to run through a few things that you need to get organized before you start mixing your plum pudding and doing that part. The first thing is, over here on my stovetop, I have 2 big pots because I'm making more than one plum pudding. I have 2 big pots full with water boiling away. This is totally and utterly vital. You have to have your water hot and boiling before you start making your plum pudding, so that when you've finished wrapping it, it can go straight into the hot boiling water. But you also need your boiling water for another step before you start wrapping your plum pudding, and I will show you that in a minute. So we've got that. I like to also, and because my kitchen's not big enough, I do it on my kitchen table. I like to have my cloths ready. Now all I use is calico that has been washed and cut into the appropriate size squares. As you can see, this one looks dirty. It's just some stains from last year's plum pudding. I use my cloth several times because otherwise it's a waste, and you can. So at the end of Christmas last year, I put it through the wash and hung it up, and it's all sterile and clean, and it's great. And you also want to have them folded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn you around, and I'm going to show you how to fold your plum pudding cloths so they are ready for use. Okay guys, so you have your square of calico, and you're going to prepare it and fold it so it ends up looking like this, because this shape is vital for when you go to put your plum pudding mixture into your cloth, and we'll get to that when it's time to do that. So what we do is we just go corner to corner and lay it out, and then corner to corner, keeping your center point, and you just keep going corner to corner until you have that shape. So now you are ready to get your plum pudding mixture all mixed up and ready to go into these cloths. What I've done is I've got all my dry ingredients into this bowl. So what I've put in there is the coconut sugar, the almond flour, cinnamon, nutmeg, mixed spice, bicarb, and salt. In this one here, I've left out the xanthium gum. I've found that you don't need it, but if you want to put it in, you can. That is quite okay. And right next to that, I have my fruit mixture that has been sitting in alcohol for a week, and it's absorbed all of that alcohol. I don't know if you'll be able to notice, maybe not. There's no liquid left in there. It's all gone into the dried fruit. And so every day I'd just come and I'd mix that with a spoon so that everything got an even coating and absorption of the alcohol. Then over here, I have ready our wet ingredients, which is just the coconut oil and the eggs. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to combine it all. All right, this is where the fun starts. First, we mix up all of our dry ingredients so that they're all mixed in and we haven't got any lumps left in it because we don't want a lumpy plum pudding. Now make sure it's all mixed evenly through so you've got this nice colour all the way around. Now from there, what we will do is we are going to add our fruit mixture first. Once we've added our fruit mixture, we're going to mix that around with all the dry ingredients and try and coat every little piece of fruit with our dry ingredients and make sure that there is no lumps. So what this does is it makes for an evenly dispersed fruit plum pudding, and you don't have great big chunks of fruit within your plum pudding and great big chunks of just your flour mixture. So you just mix that all the way through, and because of the moisture in the fruit, you are going to get it so it's not dry anymore. So see how I don't have any clumps of fruit, and we've got all that dry ingredients mixed all the way through. This is where it starts to become fun, guys. From here, we add our wet ingredients. So our eggs, we add our egg and coconut oil mix, and we simply mix that through to make a really nice sloppy pudding mix. Make sure you get it all evenly through. Give it a really, really good mix. Now that is a fantastic consistency. It needs to be sloppy. You're not looking for a firm cake mix. You're looking for quite a sloppy sort of a mix that's easily to move about. Now that that's all mixed in, let's go get the cloths, and I'm going to show you this fantastic trick that helps you make a perfect round plum pudding. You know how I said earlier, folding the plum pudding cloth the way I did, and we needed the boiling water? Well, this is where it comes into play. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the pointy end that's going to be the actual center of our plum pudding, and we're going to dip it into our boiling water to whatever height you think your plum pudding is going to come to. I'm going to go to about here, because you need this extra space on the smallest part because you're going to need to tie it all together. So I'm going to dunk it in the hot water about that far. Oh, that fogged up. I'm so sorry, guys. And we're going to let the last little bit of it just drip out, and we're going to take it back over to our workstation. All right, now that we're back over here, we're going to unfold it onto our workstation, and what you have is a perfect circle where the water is. Now I like to use coconut flour, but you can use almond, and you just give it a sprinkling over it. Now what this does is it prevents the plum pudding from sticking to your cloth. And that's what you want. You don't want your plum pudding to stick to your cloth. You want when on Christmas Day that it's going to come off and it's going to be really nice and easy to remove your material. And just give it a bit of a shake around. You might end up putting a little bit too much on like I have, but that's okay. You just tip it over to the side. And now what we're going to do is we're going to pour our plum pudding mixture into the center till it comes almost to the outside of this circle. And then all we're going to do, guys, is gather our material up. All the way around. Make sure you get every edge in your hand so that it's all wrapped up really nicely. Now I forgot to show you earlier that I actually have some string already cut and ready to go. And what we're going to do is we're simply just going to tie this plum pudding up as low and as tight to the mixture as we can. So if we hold all the material up high and we just try and get this down as low as we can. Make sure you tie this really, really well, because this is our insurance that none of our mixture is going to come out when we put it in the water. So tight is definitely the key here. All right, I've got that tied nice and tight. I've just made a loop in my rope, in my string. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take it straight over. We're going to take it straight over to our boiling water and we're going to place it in there. Leave that string so that you can leave the string so you can get to it. Now that we've put that in the boiling water, we're going to put a lid on it. We're going to keep an eye on that water all the time, and we're going to have to make sure that our plum pudding is always covered in boiling water. So what you need to do when you're topping it up is boil your kettle and put the boiling water on top to fill it up. And you're going to get that to boil away for about 6 hours. And then after 6 hours, I will come back and show you what the next step is. So back in the kitchen, it has been about 6 hours since I put the plum puddings on to boil. Now I've been topping up their water with boiling hot water from the kettle and just making sure that they're always fully submerged and a gentle boil the whole time. I've taken them out. Now this is what I like to do. You might come up with some sort of system that works better. If you do, drop me a note and let me know. But I have just used the twine that I tied the plum puddings up with. I've used that onto a coat hanger with the clips on it. And then I've just spread out all of the top part of the calico so that it can dry out. Now the hardest part to dry out is going to be this area in here where it's the thickest. So I want you to then hang it up somewhere like on a door frame where it's going to get plenty of ventilation, and somewhere where you can turn the fan on so that there's even more ventilation going through. And just check on it every day and just make sure that it all dries. So you might want to also like pull it up for a bit and let it fully dry under here as well. And this is just to prevent mold from forming on the outside on your calico. If a little bit forms, don't stress over it. It should be fine. But what you want is to get, particularly where you've tied it and where the material is the thickest, to get as dry as possible. So just hang it up, let it get lots of airflow until Christmas Day. And then on Christmas Day, take it down. Once again, on Christmas Day, you get your water to a boil and you place your plum pudding in there and you let it boil for 2 to 3 hours. Then once your 2 to 3 hours is up, or you can leave it for longer, that's quite okay as well. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take that plum pudding out of the pot and place it onto a chopping board, and you're going to cut the twine that's holding all that fabric together, and you're going to just slowly open up your plum pudding, and you're going to find this most beautiful, dark, rich plum pudding on the inside. Now, to get all of the calico off, you get a plate that you want to serve your plum pudding on, and you put it on top and you do the tip over, and the last of that calico is going to come off, and then you cut and consume. So it's really nice to have it with ice cream or custard, just plain cream if you can do cream as well. All of those things work really, really nicely. So guys, I hope you enjoy my plum pudding recipe that used to be my grandmother's, and I changed it to a gluten and dairy-free product so that I could enjoy Christmas plum pudding. It is honestly the easiest plum pudding to make, and it is, in a lot of ways, it's very traditional as well. So guys, enjoy. Big hugs. Until next time.